Hello, my name is Ivan Richmond, and I am the author of a book entitled The Religion of Good. So, The Religion of Good is a high end spirituality book that confronts something that I call the ethics crisis. Now, the ethics crisis in the West is that I believe that we have lost touch with our ability to figure out what it means to be good anymore. That's not to say people don't have ideas or don't have intuitions, but there are profound reasons why we're in a really thick fog right now, ethically speaking. Now, my solution to this problem is a spiritual one, but before we can get there, I need to unpack why I think a lot of these things. Now, who am I? I am a Wiccan priest of some 20 years. I also have a BA in Greco-Roman Studies from Reed College. And I am someone who thinks very deeply about divinity, about ethics, about intuition, spirituality, where we're going in our lives, all that kind of stuff. And so I am here to present my perspective. What is Wicca? I'm going to get into that in later videos because there's a lot to unpack there. But basically, it's kind of a little bit of an obscure minority religion in America. We have a goddess and a god. Most of us, anyway. It's very difficult to have one thing for what Wicca is. And it is a nature religion. We have a simple moral code that says basically try not to harm people unless you really have to, something like that. And we also do magical rituals. We think they're magic, or maybe we don't think they're magic. We do them anyway. Maybe for whatever reason, we think that that symbolic rituals have some sort of spiritual meaning. So we might not necessarily take our magic literally, but we do have a magical system, so we're a magico religious tradition. But really, what Wicca is very beside the point. My book is not about Wicca, and my book is not trying to sell anybody on Wicca. And I'm not here on YouTube trying to sell anybody on Wicca or any other platform trying to sell anybody on Wicca. I am simply here to talk about ethics and the spiritual approach that I think anybody of any religion or none can take to ethics. And I am using the spiritual technology that we have in Wicca and sharing that with the world, but I'm not pushing anything on anybody. And hey, if a Catholic Mass makes you a great person, go. Okay, so let's start with religious dogma. And for this video, I'm just going to unpack why I think religious dogma doesn't work. And then in future videos, I'm going to unpack why I think some other approaches don't work as well, and why we came to this place in the West where nothing seems to work. All right. And then I'm eventually, of course, going to go to what I think works. But, let's start out with dogma. So let's say we have religion X, okay? And let's say that in X they believe that there's a God named Joe, and that Joe is the one right, true, and only God according to them, and so forth, right? They have like the book of X, and that has, God's commandments, God Joe's commandments, and basically they say, okay, well, there you go. All you have to do is follow this book, the book of X, and you're a moral person. Well, not so fast. Let's suppose there's religion Y, and in religion Y they believe that goddess is Susan, and Susan is the right one right, true, and only deity, right? And they have the Book of Why, and in the Book of Why it lists a bunch of commandments, and that's your morality. Well, instantly you can see the problem that religion X and religion Y are going to clash. I mean, they're going to disagree on what God's teaching is, and even which God is the one right, true, and only God. So how do we tell the difference between these things? Like, how do we choose between Joe and Susan, or do we choose, right? And what about something else? What about, let's say there's an offshoot of religion X called religion Z, and they have the Book of Z. They still believe in the God Joe, but they believe that the God Joe taught a different teaching. So there you have another variant of the problem that, you may agree that Joe is the one right, true, and only God, but you have these biblical differences between these holy books. How do you choose between them? The thing is, there doesn't seem to be any actual criteria for determining true gods versus false gods. Not that I've ever heard. I mean, and I've been having Christians and other monotheists, Mormons and whatnot, proselytize to me my whole life, and I've never heard anybody. I sort of would think that if there was some criteria that they could give for how we could, to know that their God is the one right, true, and only God, if that's what they think, then they would have given it to us by now. And obviously, I'm not talking about all Christians. I know there's lots of Christians who don't think in this way, but the proselytizers who come to me and tell me that I'm going to burn in hell because I don't believe what they believe, those people do try to sell me on this, right? And so I doubt that Dogma is a workable system, because how do you choose? How do you choose among various deities? How do you choose among various holy books? And maybe nobody's right. Maybe there isn't just one true deity. Maybe there are multiple good deities. Maybe there are no deities at all, in which case, following them isn't really fruitful. How do we know that these books weren't just written by humanity? It seems more likely, right? I mean, if there was a God, wouldn't God have just put morality right in our heads, along with the knowledge that he, she, it exists? Surely a divinity would have some sort of better way, it seems to me, than just leaving it all up to, a holy book, knowing there's a bunch of other gods people believe in, and just casually mentioning that, he, she, or it happens to be the one right, true, and only one, but not actually giving anybody, any criteria outside of the holy books. I mean, I realize the holy books, well, of course, obviously, like the holy book of the religion that says that God X is the one right, true, and only God, will have a story, a myth that explains that. But that's not actually evidence, because it's elliptical thinking. If you say, my God's the one right, true, and only God because my holy book says he is, I'm just going to use he for simplicity, since the main people who seem to be claiming that there's one right, true, and only God seem to have a male deity, but it might be female or something else. The point being that there doesn't seem to actually be any criteria to choose these things according to Dogma. And, not only that, but it seems like there also isn't, like, it's a black box. Like, there isn't actually a reasoning that went in to, this is how we know any of this stuff. It's just, well, I believe it, and it's like, my only answer is, I don't, and it doesn't really seem to help us at all. I mean, not only does it not actually tell us what's good, I mean, obviously adherents of a religion can follow their morality, but what happens when religions clash? I mean, what happens when religions X and Y go to war, or sects X and Z go to war? And we see that happening in the world today. I mean, this is not just an academic debate. This is a significant thing in the world today, where we see, Muslims and Jews fighting. We see Christians and Muslims fighting, Muslims and Hindus fighting, and so forth. So, it seems like there's got to be a better way than Dogma. Now, I think a lot of you are way ahead of me. A lot of you may have been, who are already persuaded of this, may be going, yeah, of course there is. We didn't start out thinking that Dogma would work. But in the next several videos, I want to tackle, one approach So in the next one, I'm going to do reason. And then after that, I think I'm going to do intuition. And I'm going to explain why I don't think other approaches work either. Because I want people to try to understand why I think that we're in an ethics crisis right now. And so that we can really look at the problem and see that there's this problem. And then I want to present my idea, but I'm not just here to present an idea. I am, but I'm also here to dialogue with people. And if somebody has a better idea out there, I'm all ears. I mean, I want to solve this problem. I want to be a good person, and I want to help my society get at ethics as best we can. So if there's a better way, I'm all ears, but I'm going to present the way that I think really works. And I think it's pretty unique. So stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like. Please subscribe to my channel. I have a lot more on the way, and it really does help the algorithm. And if you're interested in this, believe me, it will help have a better dialogue in the world, to have all of us, like and subscribe and so forth to each other's videos. So, so peace and all the best blessings to all of you out there. I look forward to talking with you in the comments and to seeing you in future videos. All right. Goodbye.